Welcome to She Rebel Radio, the podcast for high-performing women leaders who want to unlearn conventional rules, leave prestigious careers, and launch businesses of significance. Each week, She Rebel Radio brings you insights and advice from women entrepreneurs who transformed their prestige prisons into daring entrepreneurial success stories. Now, here is your host, Lulu Minns.
Welcome to episode 45 of She Rebel Radio, the responsibility trigger. Good morning, ladies. It is She Rebel Friday. It is Mental Health Awareness Week. It is a new moon today as well. If you're listening to this on the day of release, either way, it is good to have you here. And we are talking about the emergence of how we're going to emerge from lockdown as well. So things are slowly but very surely starting to unfold and move forward. So I wanted to really focus in the next few weeks about this word responsibility. And I may have set a trigger for you with that word responsibility, but I really want to ask the question during this episode 45 of She Rebel Radio, are you shirking responsibility and how is that harming you? And to consider this a responsibility series over the next 3 episodes, today we're going to look at the responsibility trigger for women. Next week, we've got an incredible guest, Bethany Webster, where we're going to be looking at the internal work that we need to do as women. And we're also going to be looking at responsibility in your self-worth and your pricing strategy with a live webinar with me on Tuesday, the 26th of May at 1 p.m. UK time. Pricing with integrity and owning your worth. If you've missed that, fear not, there will be a replay that will be created for you. But of course, it would be great to have you on live so you can ask your questions about owning your worth and how you can find integrity in your pricing. But surrounding all of this really is this word responsibility. And what I wanted to share with you today is asking the question, are women shirking responsibility as we find it a triggering word and a triggering thing? My name is Lulu Minns. I'm an advocate and coach for women, helping you find freedom from prestige in those positions of prestige and more meaning, significance and impact in the work that you do, usually by way of creating your business of significance. Now, this episode is really created for you from my mastermind call. I have the Rebel Heart Club Mastermind, which is in its 4th year, which is supporting women who are ready to execute their business of significance and have done a lot of the internal work and continue to do that internal work as they execute that business of significance out into the world. And before the call a few weeks ago, I was sitting down the beach and, checking in with some training that I was going to provide and some journaling tools and questions we were going to have at the beginning of that always very interesting, very empowering conversation. And this word responsibility came up for me. I was sitting there feeling a real sense of responsibility to women as a collective for our growth, for our evolution. And as many of my clients also work with and support women as well, I raised the question in our mastermind call, what do you need to take more responsibility for? And several of my clients, when they were, because we hear from everybody on the call, it's a very small, intimate group, and that's how it works best. And if at any point you want to talk to me about becoming part of that mastermind, I would love to speak to you about that because places are currently open. The discussion began to revolve around how this was actually a triggering word. And a triggering word for women. So it really sparked a very interesting conversation, and it sparked an interesting movement and shift for my clients who, despite lockdown and extended lockdown, have been continuing to serve powerfully in their businesses and continuing to serve and support other women and continuing to sign clients despite, what's been going on. But what came up around this word responsibility was Three main core areas which are all interconnected, which I'm going to share with you, is one is that it's a burden. Responsibility is a burden. It means I have to do it all on my own and I already have enough to do. Secondly, there was about conversation about preferring to be the deputy and not the leader, and preferring to be second in command. And thirdly, around responsibility, that it's too much. Responsibility can be too much, and it can be heavy, carrying a burden of information or knowledge and not always knowing what to do with that can feel quite heavy. So why is it that responsibility to us as women is potentially triggering and we're wanting to shirk that and shake that off? And the word responsibility is duty, it's liability, it's accountability, which those words may trigger you even more. And it's really an opportunity to act independently and take decisions without authorization, which again, when we look at the history and the collective of us as women, is something that we automatically haven't had the right to do. So it's we've not had the privilege of that. And around the word, duty comes control, power, and, quite masculine perceptions of what that responsibility actually carries. And we all have a responsibility as women to define a more feminine version of it that feels good to us, but we also have a responsibility to look at where we are triggered by this word responsibility. So looking at, the burden, I have to do it all on my own and I have enough to do. There was, in Mental Health Awareness Week, I shared a post on Instagram from Psychology's magazine of things that are not your job. And it was, definitely aimed at women, as the Psychology's magazine is. And it was about holding it all together, being liked, doing it all, fixing and solving people's problems, pleasing everybody, and women, we carry a big collective sense of responsibility to that, which is really unhelpful. And we're going to start to look at that even more next week with our guest. And it's really important to start looking at where, and I've got some journaling questions that I would love you to dive into and explore your relationship with responsibility, because if you're shirking and hiding from it because it's too much of a burden, you don't want to be the leader in your own business and what it is that you're creating, that the knowledge and your thirst for learning. So many of my clients have a huge thirst for learning, as do I, but if that knowledge, that wisdom becomes too heavy for you to carry and you don't know what to do with it all, it's kind of like doing all the work, and this may resonate with you, it's kind of like doing all the work to prepare for the race, to prepare for self-actualization, to prepare for leading with feminine-based principles and changing things up and being disruptive as much as you are harmonious, and creating change and impact in the world. And as I said, I feel like this is going to resonate with you. It's like preparing for the race and preparing for it again and again and again and again, but not actually stepping over the start line. So not actually getting into the arena to play the game. And if you find that you're doing all the preparing, but you're not actually stepping over the arena, over the line to actually start the race, let alone finish the race. And those of you that work with me or in my community know that I'm all about enjoyment, grit, integrity in the journey. It's not about a desperate attempt to get to the finish line. It's about a marathon and a sprint and really enjoying the journey. But, this responsibility issue is going to keep you stuck. It really is going to keep you stuck. So I'm going to invite you to have a look at it today, because it might be something that has been really getting in your way from you actually taking the action that you need to take to really step over the start line. So the questions I'm going to ask you to do some journaling on, grab a pen and paper. And I love, the amount of you that I speak to or in my community that, say that you've been listening to this whilst walking the dogs, whilst going for a run, whilst cleaning the house, whatever it might be. And I don't mean to be, typical that women are cleaning the house. What I would say is a very positive story, very positive belief that my mother always instilled in me was every working woman should have a cleaner. And as they traditionally tend to be female-based businesses, you're also supporting another woman in her business. So that's always been my story around that, which has been a positive belief system, I feel, for me. But yeah, I've loved hearing that you've been listening, that you've really been following the journey and listening to She Rebel Radio and wanting to listen to all the episodes, but actually going back to several of them to grab your pen and paper and do the notes and do the work. So it's always amazing to hear that. So this is an episode you're definitely going to want to do that. And if you have been doing that and you haven't connected with me, please connect with me. If you haven't written us a review, please write a review. That would be incredible. But I really want you to explore your relationship with responsibility and how this might be keeping you stuck behind the start line. So the first question is, what are you taking responsibility for that you shouldn't be? What or who, I might add, are you taking responsibility for that you shouldn't be? Because this is a big block for so many women, as I read out, responsible for holding it all together, being liked, doing it all, fixing people, pleasing everybody, sorting out all their problems. So where are you, who are you taking responsibility for that you shouldn't be? Secondly, where are you not, underline not, where are you not taking responsibility for yourself, for your desires, for your happiness? Where are you not taking that responsibility for yourself? Thirdly, where are you not taking responsibility of your business and the impact that you can make? So that is if you've started. If you haven't already, maybe where are you not taking responsibility of the work that you are really here to do in the world? So I'm going to throw that one out to you. And finally, how can you take more responsibility for the collective conscience of women and our evolution? I'm just going to throw that big old responsibility out to you of that growing sense that I have felt over the past 5 years, and particularly, during this pandemic, of the real collective responsibility we have as women for the growth and evolution of women. As the Dalai Lama said, Western women will save civilization. And I believe that to be true, but we've got to take a lot of responsibility to do that, and we've got to take responsibility for the right things and to ditch the old patterns of holding it all together, being liked, doing it all, fixing, saving people and pleasing everybody, because that is not going to be a path that is going to unfold for you where you can take responsibility for the things that you actually have control of and that you actually can change. Because so often women are taking responsibility for the things that they can't change, trying to do it all yourself, keeping yourself small by being the deputy and not the leader. And then when you have the wisdom, when you have the insight, when you have the learning, it all feeling quite heavy and not knowing what to do with it. So this episode of She Rebel Radio, the responsibility trigger, really looking at where that word may trigger you, where you're taking responsibility for what you shouldn't be, and where you need to start taking more responsibility. Now, before I go, I want to invite you, as I said, to the free webinar training, Finding Integrity in Your Pricing and Owning Your Worth. I'm going to remind you, you have a responsibility to your business, to yourself, to price with integrity to your clients. You have a responsibility to step up and own your worth. So do join us on the 26th of May at 1 p.m. for that free webinar training. There's going to be an incredible group of women that come together. There is going to be time for Q&A. I might even do a few slides for you, and do sign up. You can find the link in the show notes below, or if you put in luluminns.com/worth, luluminns.com/worth, it would be amazing to see you there. And as I said, the next 2 episodes of She Rebel Radio, we're going to be delving into this place of responsibility for women and working through what the triggers may come up for us, with pricing, with the internal work, with what we can take responsibility for. And I always look forward to hearing your feedback. Always connect with me on any of the social media channels. Send me an email at lulu@luluminns.com. Join us at the She Rebel Radio members group, and let's continue the conversation. And I am here to support you in your growth journey for sure. So big love from me. Have an amazing rest of the day, weekend, and do catch up on any episodes that you've missed of She Rebel Radio. And I look forward to hearing your takeaways.
Thanks for listening to She Rebel Radio, the podcast for high-performing women leaders who want to unlearn conventional rules, leave prestigious careers, and launch businesses of significance. She Rebel Radio is executive produced and hosted by women's advocate and coach, Lulu Minns. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe so you never miss another episode. You can find Lulu Minns on Facebook and LinkedIn at Lulu Minns and on Instagram at LuluMinns_biz. Until next week, keep rebelling against the rules and designing success your way.